Years later, Stanley Jr.'s administration was challenged by a man called the Looker. He had been given that name because he was always on the lookout. He had eyes that were so big that he could even spot a liar. If there were ever a case in the village, the Looker would be the witness. Then, instantly, whatever he says will most likely be the ruling the judge will use. It was believed that he saw everything, including what you were thinking and behind the scenes. He could literally see it coming. His eyes were so huge that he could see his brain whenever he blinked. They were so big that his head seemed to be 50% eyes and 50% flesh. This guy was the eyewitness with skills. He put the EYE in witness. He was believed to have opened his eyes while in his mother's womb. The Looker wanted a change in leadership so badly since no one dared to challenge them as mayor. He had to take matters into his own hands. Even if it meant being considered the evil one, he didn't care. His house was one of a kind. It was suspended high up the ground, and a fleet of stairs joined it to the ground. His family was always acting weird, almost like they were hiding something. Or they were waiting to bewitch someone, especially his wife. And speaking of his wife, she was the ugliest in the village, which is an extreme irony, because the husband is known for seeing it all, due to his huge eyes. Didn't he see she is ugly? It was a true waste of eyes. Her face and the Looker's huge eyes created a new breed in the village that looked like ugly ogres. Ogres are naturally ugly, but his children are uglier. The village could take one of these breeds, but they had to put her on family planning when she gave birth to 12. They just said no to the spectacle. They couldn't take it anymore. They almost slaughtered the whole family, but their traditions stopped them from doing it. Meanwhile, Stanley told him he wouldn't give up his seat without a fight. The Looker wanted him to hand over with immediate effect, and truth be said, Stanley took this threat lightly. But on one specific day, Stanley was walking to his office. He felt a weird sensation tingling within his body. From the moment he opened the door to his office, he came face to face with the Looker. The guy was seated on Stanley's chair, and right behind him were 3 well-built men who each wielded pistols. In those days, guns were rare and very expensive to buy. But somehow, the Looker managed to get his hands on 3. "What are you doing in my seat? Stand up at once," Stanley roared at the Looker. The Looker giggled, then said, "You have no power within you anymore. I am younger than you, so I have better ideas than you. You are unfit for this position." "I am very fit for the position. Why don't you walk away from your friends and come and face me like a grown-up?" Stanley said while he walked closer to the table. Then, while maintaining stern eye contact with him, he says, "A fist for a fist. I was taught not to fight with my elders, so basically, it is a big no," the Looker mentioned. "As your elder, I command you to leave my office at once," Stanley said sternly. Then he said, "Don't make me repeat myself, boy. I am the one with the upper hand now. Your army no longer works for you. When you see me here, know that I have a huge crowd lobbying behind me. I am giving you 3 days. If you don't pack your things and leave, I will kill you and your family with my own hands," the Looker warned. Stanley became blinded by rage, and instantly began walking closer to him before he could lay his hands on the guy. He got roughed up by his men, and they threw Stanley straight to the floor. Instantly, Stanley got up and threw a blow towards one of them, and it landed. Just as he is about to be hit by another blow to his face, he ducks and swings a kick towards another one. And, using his body weight, he makes the 3rd fall to the ground. The Looker stood up in shock. He has never seen one man defeat 3 men, all by himself. Just as another one was getting up, Stanley swung a punch to his nose and 2 more on his cheekbones, and the guy's head started spinning. Stanley felt great. He was reliving his below 20s again. The Looker stood up and started walking towards Stanley while he folded up his sleeves. "You wanted a one-on-one fight. Come get it," the Looker said, instantly lifting his fist, ready and waiting to strike. While breathing heavily, Stanley began walking towards him and swung the first blow. Instantly, the Looker moved to his left and hit him on his belly, then another to the face. Stanley ate up the pain like it was dessert and never let it weigh him down. The Looker swung another, and several blows hit his head before his punch landed, followed by a powerful kick to the groin, and he fell to the ground in pain. Seeing they were approaching the fight wrongly, the Looker's men attacked Stanley simultaneously. This time, They gave Stanley a hell of a beating before finally stopping. "Leave Brainstorm now," the looker roared. Stanley got up like nothing happened and exited his office without a word. While getting closer to his house, he found people throwing out his family from his home. He instantly knew they were not needed anymore. With his family, they fled the village and, in the process, got beaten by some of the looker's men. Behind them, Stanley could hear some of them chanting that his house should be burnt down. After a short while, the sounds of wind blowing over huge flames made him know it was already done. Once they were completely out of the village, Stanley looked at his family. Anger stung him to the core of his bones. His 5 children had been injured, and so was his wife. His body wasn't spared, but that didn't matter to him. "Daddy, why have we been thrown out of our house?" Anderson said while crying. "Don't worry, everything will be fine," Stanley responded. "What next?" Elizabeth mentioned. "We should find a boat and move to an island called Cortny. They can never find or harm us there. We can rebuild. I can rebuild," Stanley mentioned while he gritted his teeth. At the moment, all they had was the clothes they wore and some cash Stanley had on him. The family walked for days towards the shore and took breaks at night. They survived on wild fruits and plants all that time, and within a week or so, they were at the shore. "Excuse me," Stanley told one of the fishermen he found there. Then he continued to say, "We want to cross to Cortny. Can you take us there?" "How much do you have?" The guy mentioned it, and Stanley showed him all he had. It wasn't much, but back then, money was money. Not many people knew how to count, or how much they had. They were okay as long as they had money. Stanley and his family were among the few people who knew how to count money. "Give me one of those, and I will take you and your family across in my boat." "Thank you," Stanley mentioned, and he gave the guy some money. Then he urged his family to get on the boat. The fisherman felt pity for the family and couldn't help but wonder why they were severely bruised. Elizabeth told him the whole story, and the guy felt sorry for the family. When they arrived in Cortny, he returned Stanley's money. His services were out of goodwill. "Thank you again. You have helped us," Stanley said to the guy, and they watched him row away. Stanley and his family then went to the nearest village and approached the mayor. They told the mayor their story, and they were accommodated. He could buy some land and build a mud house with the money he had. After that, he went back to the mayor to ask for a job, and after some pleading and persuasion, he got what he desired. It took him 3 months to acquire all his family needed, and then 2 more months to stabilize. After 1 more month, he bought a boat and asked for some days off from his boss. Once it was granted, he went back home early that day, and his wife knew what was on his mind. "We are happy here, don't?" Elizabeth said, then got interrupted by her husband. "They did us dirty. I am a Mugrail. I won't let that slide. It is time they paid for what they did to us." Elizabeth sighed, then said, "Be careful, don't get hurt." Stanley then bid his children bye, packed what he needed, including a scarf, and started walking towards his boat. He had never rowed a boat over a huge distance before, and therefore he knew it was going to challenge him. After several hours of being on the water, his boat docks, and he alights and then ties it up. Before he left, he paid someone to look after it till he returned. The walk to Brainstorm was long and treacherous. This time, he was making the journey alone. Last time, he had his wife and children by his side to talk to and keep him company. The 1-week journey felt like it took a month and a half. Once he got close enough, he used a scarf he had packed earlier to cover his face from his nose to his collarbone, leaving only his eyes exposed. He then began walking into the village unnoticed. Everyone was busy with their typical activities and was completely focused on what they were doing. He instantly stood some distance away from his former house and looked at it in pain. All that was left were the mud walls, which were charcoal black now. "They must pay," Stanley said in his thoughts. Just then, a hand yanks him, and his heart skipped a beat, while his brain told the rest of his body that they were finished. Instantly, another hand covered his mouth, and he then got hit by something on his head, and it went dark. After a short while, he slowly opened his eyes and found himself on the floor of a house he didn't recognize. He slowly turned to his